the seller. This is gold right there. Ask them what is the most important thing to the seller. Sometimes you're going to hear money, sometimes you're going to hear time, sometimes you're going to hear they want the person that's going to take over their home to be, you know, the person that's going to love it for the rest of their lives. So you need to make sure you ask what's important to that seller. Make sure the buyer shows the seller respect. So be on time for your showings. Advise buyers not to make disparaging remarks in the home. Okay, we've talked about this a few times. How many people have been to a house that has a Nest doorbell? Know what that is? Yeah. Well, people are hearing something. You're going to be talking in that home. You're going to be talking outside of that home. I've had people come up to me and go, okay, yeah, they watched with the Nest doorbell. Everybody walked outside and they're like, woo, yeah, we're going to make an offer on this house. What if that's you're the listing agent, you just saw that, your person knows, they're like, okay, well, we know that they're happy, you know, we can work a little bit more on that. So and disparaging remarks is even worse, because now you're on the opposite side, because now you could be, you know, saying, oh gosh, and that's their favorite part of the house, you know, that you just did not give any credit to. So negotiation with the seller begins the minute you set the appointment. Set your buyer apart from the rest. So personally, get the seller to feel what your buyers are thinking. Have buyers write a letter to the sellers explaining what they want to purchase, why they want to purchase a home. Okay, so we've talked about this a couple times before. I actually listened to one of the top agents in Chicago talking about this the other day, and she said, look, I got a multiple offer situation. I had 6 offers, and all 6 of those offers wrote a letter. She gave them to her sellers. The sellers looked at it and go, these are all the same letter. This is like a template of, I feel this way, I love this, you know, here's my family, maybe a picture of a dog. But they were all the same. So the idea of, if you're gonna do this, you need to make it so that it is both impactful, plus it is somewhat practical. You know, I know we were talking about this with Sandy Mag was saying something about her explanation, and it was not necessarily as much as a personal letter, but also a note about what their financing is, who their, you know, what their strengths are in terms of their offer. So it was coming from that seller or that buyer, but it wasn't just personal heartstring stuff. So kind of think about that a little bit too as we go through it. But you need to have people stand out too.
Is there a lot of that letter writing? I mean, this is multiple times that I've heard about this. I guess this is in upper scale sales, 300,000 or 400 or
no, this is all across the board.
No, this is when it's competitive.
Yeah, when it's competitive, people are doing this.
Pull their heartstrings and change their mind.
It's a slippery slope, though. You have to be really careful. I've seen a lot of letters that violate fair housing.
And that's where I was kind of going to go. You know, this is it is a practice. It is something that people are doing. You know, in that same Chicago example, they talked about doing videos. I would tell you don't do a video. I mean, it is what it is, but you know, it's not going to be the thing that is keeping you as an independent third party helping the people. But you got to know this. You're going to see this. And what does it mean? Well, you get an offer in. The person probably will put that offer as a part of the scanned documents. So if that's the case, then you go ahead and go, all right, this is what I'm presenting you as a part of what your setup is.
She hit it right on the head though, because there's a lot of cases where they violated the fair housing. You really have to watch your wording and what you're saying.
A video would be the worst from what I can
No, a video would be horrible. That's when I heard that on the podcast. I was like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, in those cases, would you edit the letter for them then, or present it as?
I've written the letter myself as an email where I could write what I wanted to write.
It's gonna be shaky.
And then showed it to my buyer and said, this is what I plan to send. Because that way I know it's not violating anything, and it talks mostly about what I observed as an agent when my buyers were walking through the house. They loved you know, the way that they reacted toward each other, you know, was the first time I've seen them, you know, really bond over a home experience. And
So the letter was from you?
it was an email.
Okay.
And then in that same email, I talked about their qualifications, you
Yeah,
know.
but as long as I've sat in on the legal meetings at state level, I've never heard as much about this as what we're hearing from. So I don't know if it's people not used to fair housing, not getting it in their mind or what it is, but it's popping up more all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to your point, I do think that the idea of whether, if you don't do this letter, you need to be sending something to that other agent going, here are the main things you need to know about my person. And it might be the lender, you know, we've got them not only pre-qualified, but pre-approved, you know, that extra step. It might be, these people are super flexible, you know, you need to close in 40 days, we can do it. If you need to close in 70 days, we can do that too. So as an agent, that is really on you to get that flexibility out there so that your offer in this spreadsheet format kind of comes back around to having a little bit more ability to make things happen. So financially, remove as much doubt as possible. Make sure the seller knows they are able to buy the house. Okay, that's pretty simple. Make sure your pre-approval letter's in there. Go ahead and make sure though, as well on that, we talked about contingencies. Whether there is no contingency or a contingency, that's a big thing at this time in the market. You know, people that are trying to figure out how to win that house, they might need to go ahead and go, all right, I'm gonna have to go in without a contingency to get my place under contract. So you might need to talk to their lender, talk about how they could do that with a bridge loan, anything else. Get the buyer's financial information needed to make a good case for them qualifying. Cash. I mean, cash is probably your number one. If you're going to be looking at how you're going to set it up, are they able to obtain mortgage source, amount of the down payment? So this is you're getting ready to begin with. Make sure that your buyers understand the extra couple of $1,000s you're asking them to include in their offer might be a good investment. Okay, so now we're at some of those, you're pulling the triggers in your transaction. You're going, okay, instead of giving $1,000 down, let's put $2,500 down, because that's going to make your earnest money deposit look stronger. You have the ability to do that. You're increasing your opportunity for the offer to be thought of. Buyers need to understand that it's not just the price of the house that they should be worrying about, it's the cost. So if home prices are going up, let the buyer know that another house might cost them more in a few months. Does that make sense? You know, we've got these great rates right now, we've got this different setup. So if home prices are going up, they may need to pay a little bit more right now so that they can secure that house, because if they don't, the next house is going to be even more expensive. So that's an education piece. And even if prices are stable or going down, interest rates could be going up. So that interest rate goes up and that changes, they could maybe only afford $225,000 worth of house versus $235,000 worth of house. So that's a little bit of more education financially. Know what's happening with the prices in that area, where the interest rates are headed. Share this info with your buyers so they can make an informed decision. So interest rates are low. At some point this year, they're gonna go up. That's definitely gonna happen. Rates have been kind of held by the Fed at this point, so keep that in mind. Keep the offer as clean as possible. Okay, so we talked about no contingency. If we don't have a contingency, that's cleaner. Cash is king. I don't always think cash is king. I think a strong conventional offer is just as good as cash in almost every sense of the word. A quick close. You need to know on a quick close, is that what the seller's looking for? Is that, maybe they want a longer close. So keep it as quick as possible, but when you're writing it up to begin with, usually quicker the better on the close, and then tell them that you could have flexibility. Waive the appraisal. Okay, we started to talk about this before, so how many have seen that idea to waive the appraisal? Yeah?
Will the lender do that though?
Will the lender do it?
No.
No. Your idea here is, we have a document called the appraisal waiver contingency. So if you bring that out into the setup,
basically what you're saying is that your buyer will waive the right that if it doesn't appraise,
Oh.
then they will pay the difference and they won't get out of the contract.
You're not really waiving the process of the appraisal, you're waiving.
You're waiving that they could get out of the contract.
So if I'm the agent on the other side, I'm gonna ask for a proof of funds to see that they can do that.
Yes, absolutely, because you don't want to get stuck in a spot where they waive this appraisal, but then they don't have the money to make up that difference. And it's really that, you think of that multiple offer that got bid up by 15,000, it was 200, it went up to 215, they've waived the appraisal contingency. Well, they might need to be able to bring $15,000 more to the table to be able to get it closed. So, very, very good point.
Can I ask a quick question? Okay, with the no contingency, I know someone said that with the house they were just buying, but then, I don't know, there was some inspection, maybe it was because of the bank. And then there was a sewer problem, and it was gonna be like $20,000. And the homeowners weren't gonna pay it, and so they were able to get out of that.
Well, so when you say no contingency, contingency on this spot would be you would usually have a contingency to sell another property. So
Oh, I
this is
gotcha,
that situation you're talking about is
Right.
inspections.
Okay.
And it's the idea that in the inspection process, you may or may not have said, I will take it as is, something like that. And if you had said that, but then you found this $20,000 problem, you still can get out of the contract. I mean, that would be a material problem to be able to get out of the contract. Get them completely pre-approved. Get them completely pre-approved, help them make sure that they know that it's gonna take a little bit of time. So you're gonna go start showing this weekend, make sure that your buyers got their pre-approval before you go in for the weekend.
So don't forget the real reasons people buy homes. This is from the Joint Center of Housing at Harvard. Top 4 reasons people buy a home: because they want a better place to raise their children in, they provide a safe place to live, they can have more space for their family, and they can have control over living space. So back to the mindset of how do you help your buyers? Think about those as reasons that is $5,000 really going to matter? Is $35 over the course of your loan per month going to matter compared to having a better place to raise your children? Remind buyers as they're considering their offers about the reason they're buying the house, what's important to them. In the end, buyers come to you for being an expert, finding and purchasing a home, a good place to live. Once they find a house they want, it's your legal and ethical responsibility to get them that house. So you need to be able to help pull all these triggers to make that happen. Okay, so that was slides. But now I want to go back to this. We're talking buyers and sellers here, talking about what are the main things that you're going to be able to need to help people with. So you want to talk buyer side or seller side more? Which is more important right now? You have something to say, Dan?
Well, sometimes my brain gets stuck on something before I can move forward, so can I just say this one thing, because I came late and I apologize.
Go.
But you were talking about the clean offer and knowing when the seller really wants to close, all these little tips or pieces of information that you don't know. You lay the groundwork for your buyers when you set that appointment in CSS, and I don't know if you've already talked about this or not, but when you make that first initial showing appointment in CSS, I always call the listing agent and say, I'm setting up an appointment in CSS right now. I hope to hear back from you if there's an appointment required or whatever. And then you can just start asking questions right then if they're nice on the phone. Like, I usually tell them, my buyers have been looking for 7 months, or my buyers have been looking for whatever. This house looks perfect. What can I know to tell them when we get there tomorrow or whatever? And they might just spill all the beans right then.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
You know everything
Well,
that you need to know to make an offer when you show them that house.
Yeah.
It's
That's,
competitive.
as I mentioned kind of as we were starting and doing the list, you gotta ask. You gotta be a good co-op agent. The best source of information you're gonna have is that other agent, is that listing agent. Being nice, going, all right, what can you tell me? What else could I be able to offer to my buyers to be able to make a informed decision there, so.
Okay, now I can.
I like the good vibes. Okay, so so really, let's just talk about those. What are you gonna be able to pull the triggers on? So, price, right? Well, we've got a $200,000 house. That's our goal to get this house under contract. We've got 10 showings that have happened on that first day. We're going into a multiple offer situation. Our buyers want to get this house. What are we gonna tell them about the price? Someone.
It's not gonna move. You need to offer more.
You're probably gonna offer, you gotta offer probably full price, right?
Yeah.
Plus.
If,
Or plus, or more.
or more. And to your point that you mentioned before, you gotta tell them the closing costs, just make that offer not full price. So if they're gonna go, oh, I'll offer full price, but I want $5,000 in closing costs, well, that's really a $5,000 low offer. So you need to get them to know that. So now that's.
Offers, go in with your best offer in a multiple offer situation.
Go in with your best offer. Yeah, if you're gonna go, all right, I'm gonna lowball here, that's probably not gonna be the strategy that's gonna win.
And that's gonna be, I have found that is more of the strategy of people who have bought and sold homes before, and even 10, 11, 15 years ago, and now they're buying something else. They wanna negotiate. And it's just a completely different market now, and they need to know that, and sometimes lose a couple before they do finally figure that out.
Well, it's a different market in terms of some of this. We talked about market segmentation. In those different price points, it could be a completely different market. If you're at a $450,000 house that's been on the market for 25 days, they might be able to negotiate.
Right.
That's something you as the realtor or the agent's gonna have to be able to explain to them and give them that information up front before you start looking at stuff.
Sure. So as a good agent in this scenario where you know that the person's gonna like it, you've almost kind of already gotta have some comps. You gotta have those comps ready to go, okay, here's 1, 2, or 3. This one was, is under pending. It was under pending and it looks like it was 2 days on the market before it went. That one probably will go similar to what this one will, which is above market. And so, yeah, you definitely have to have that information out there. All right, so we pulled the price trigger. We got them to what, 210? Yeah. Went 210, no closing costs. What's the second thing we're gonna ask them? We're writing our contract out. When do you close? Right?
Close.
Yeah. And what was the advice we just saw?
Be flexible, if you can be flexible.
Be flexible, but write the contract with the closest, smallest window that you can, and then tell them you'll be flexible. Because at the end of the day, when they're looking at it and they go, okay, they can close in 40 days or 30 days, whatever it is, that on paper looks stronger than a 60-day close. Just from a very simplistic standpoint, but then you have to make sure you tell your people that that flexibility is out there. So you've done that.
It's interesting that the contract doesn't, that it says honored before this date, but it doesn't allow for, you know what I mean?
That's,
It doesn't allow for a range.
no, you don't do that.
But you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, you have to have a
Like honored
contract
before.
date.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
contract law.
specific.
Gotta have a contract date.
Okay.
I think it's important that you communicate with the co-op agent when you're making the offer to see, kind of where their sellers are too. So that gives you more of a time frame.
Oh, yeah.
Then you put their desired date as the
Their
date
data
on it.
and then they match
Yeah.
it.
Back to exactly what you guys are both saying. You've talked to that agent, you understand they don't want to move until after the school year is over.
Right.
So that's important. Maybe they haven't got a house yet and they are going, okay, my house is gonna sell, now I don't even know where to move. They might want that extra 15 days of flexibility to go figure out where they wanna be.
Or if it's empty, you can be pretty sure they want to close as fast as they can.
Yeah, usually. Think about that in terms of, I always like to throw that in too, of when you close so that the person doesn't have to make their next house payment. So if you close here at the end of the month, they're not gonna have to make that next house payment in June. So save them $1,500, whatever it is. Yep. All right, so now we pulled those triggers. Now we're looking at, we've given them the good, strong pre-approval letter. We've got a date in mind. What else?
Make sure you have all your attachments and everything's all buttoned up so it's ready to roll.
Yeah.
How about the modification of the appraisal? if you're 10,000 higher than the asking price.
Yeah, the appraisal waiver contingency, it's strong. It's a strong, another thing to be able to pull, as long as they can do it. That's a good one to be able to put in there. What's that?
Earnest money.
Yeah, earnest money. That's a good one. I mean, when you think about if this is sitting in a spreadsheet and you're looking at one that says $500 and then the next one says $3,500, which one do you think is more serious?
The one that's 1%.
Yeah, 1%. That's actually a pretty good way to at least think of it, to get people up to go, all right, you know, if I'm looking at a $200,000 house, 1% is $2,000. That's a standard good way to get them to bring that up.
I think it's important that you bring up inspections and tell them that not to nitpick every little thing. If it's a safety hazard, don't
Yeah,
hazard,
yeah.
you know, fine, but not nitpick everything.
Set the expectations with
Yeah.
them that if we're doing this is a multiple offer thing. They could have a backup offer. This could go through, and then what happens if you try to nitpick on that inspections? They'll go, okay, well, we'll just shut down. We'll wait. We'll take the backup offer and move forward. So,
Has anybody ever waived the inspections altogether? Or is that would be an as-is?
so you can. I try never to tell anybody to do that.
Yeah.
Not for your buyer.
Not for your buyer. The people that I will see that will actually waive things, so there's the in its present condition addendum document. Look at it, it's got 3 boxes on it. The first box is basically saying it's the same as a contract. It is exact same language as a contract saying, I'm gonna accept it in its present condition, but I still can get out of it because of any kind of negotiation, any kind of items from the inspection period. The second one in there says, and it's an okay one to use, to say, I'm gonna go ahead and get it inspected and I will waive the right, I'm not gonna ask for things, basically is what it says. The third one says, I'm just not gonna get it inspected and I take it as is. Well, you don't have any kind of a window. So the people that I've seen that do that are people like real estate investors that are like,
Gonna flip it.
yeah, I'm gonna tear it down, you know, I understand, I wanna get this, and that really does make their offer a lot stronger. Because you know that there's no way for them to get out of it for inspection period.
The termites are different, right? Termites inspections are separate, treated separately in the contract?
So termite inspection in Missouri, in Kansas, if there are termites, they have to be remediated, they have to be fixed by the seller. So it's not something that's a contract negotiation.
And radon also, I guess, or?
No,
No.
radon is
Buyer's choice of inspection.
Yes, it's a part of a buyer's choice of an inspection, and termites is too. So that's why you should always get a termite test. But the idea of radon, it is not dictated by the contract whether it needs to be fixed or not. It is a health safety concern, so I would say probably 80% of the time it does get fixed. But if it's in that negotiation of a contract where they've got a backup offer and this is gonna be costing another $1,500, they might say, no, we don't have to do it. So we've talked about a little bit of those things. Put this one out there, look at the seller's disclosure, make sure you're understanding, are there any things that they wanna write in or not? That one pops up, especially when you get in this multiple offers, they're like, oh, I really wanna, you know, the fridge is not included, or, you know, washer, dryer, those items. So that's part of that also keep it clean type of thing in the contract. I would say a simple thing to say is, we wanna keep this as clean as possible. We could go through this, we could talk about this with the buyer or the seller afterwards, but let's not try to write in 4 different things, because that's gonna change what your offer is. I'd also say the other thing to think about with regards to inspections is the time period. So if you can do it and your person's like, all right, I'm ready, you don't have to do 10 days for an inspection period. You can do 7 days for an inspection period. Tighten it down a little bit. Don't make it so that you can't do what you need to do, but
Be careful, it's not a Friday when you do that, because then you lose.
well, yeah, it's calendar days.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is the best one to pull, but if you know you can get somebody in there and inspect it quickly, and that's going to help the overall offer, it's another thing you can do. The opposite side of it is if you want to make it look clean and then they're going, oh, but I need 3 weeks for inspections, you know, that's going to be a flag for the sellers to go, I don't wanna be off the market for 3 weeks. What if these people hate that, you know? So the standard 10 is good, but keep that in mind. So, expectations, we talked about. Let's talk a little bit more about that escalation clause idea. So, how many have used the escalation clause? Yeah? Tell me what you think. How'd it go?
Well, it was confusing. Number one, it was a co-op agent, and my co-op agent didn't have a clue. Apparently, she hadn't used it before. Once I explained it to her, she was fine with it. Now, her buyer was a little apprehensive.
Yeah.
About, well, you know, this X number of dollars that I may or may not have to come up with. You know, but she smoothed that over with them, so they went ahead and signed it. But they do get a little apprehensive when they're thinking, well, you know, if we had it listed at 200 and we offer 210 and it doesn't appraise and we've got to come up with $10,000, you can see why they're apprehensive about it.
I mean, it's different. It's not something that was in this market 5 years ago, for example.
I thought that would have been proposed by the buyers, not from the sellers. That an escalation clause would be the buyer going, look, whatever happens here, make sure that you know.
My builders put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we even put it in there if, there are extras or change orders, you know, they get enough, or if they're fixing them into the loan, we put it in there then, because that builder has, you know, basically what he has to get. And if he spends time doing all of this stuff, and if for some reason the house doesn't appraise,